Hey kids, you're listening to A Couple of Annoyed Grumboys, and this is the 138th Simpsons podcast.
And I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass.
That's right, we're the Simpsons podcast that discusses the beloved animated sitcom The Simpsons from seasons 11 and beyond, and the newest episodes when the air. Why do we do it this way? Well, an entity known as Wheel of Random has cursed us to only watch those episodes because plenty of other podcasts out there have discussed the Golden Age, that being seasons 1 through 10, so we're tasked to find if any other episodes from the latter seasons can match our favorite beloved Golden Age episodes. I don't do this alone, because I'm just one annoyed grumpboy named Craig, and with me is the other annoyed grumpboy,
Steve. Hello, Craig.
Welcome, Steve, and welcome, new listeners.
Yes.
That's right. You are listening to the first episode of our podcast, but guess what? You really are not. You're listening to our 312th episode. Oh, I hope you're not pissed off about that. But why would we do this? Why would we pull a boner on you? Well, we like to pull a lot of boners on this podcast, Steve.
It's very true.
Should we explain to the new listener what's going on?
Yes, and first of all, I'd like to say it is the first podcast of the rest of our lives, if that means anything.
Like, ours or theirs?
Yes, both of us,
Ah.
It's like the next step into the future.
The future?
Yes, Conan. All the way to the year 2000.
No, so our fan base has also listened to this episode. It's our 312th episode. Yes, I know. And you learned last week that we're reviewing Dial In for Nerder, which was our first episode. Now, to the OG fans of this podcast, you've heard our crappy first episode. And the reason why we're doing it is our 6th anniversary to the day when this episode dropped. It's been 6 years. So we wanted to redo the very first episode that we dropped 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And give it a little bit cleaner episode. Like, you know, a lot of people will start with the first episode of a podcast, and we feel like that episode in particular was not great. You know, even afterwards, they still aren't that great.
Sure.
Hopefully, new listeners, you understand, like, the newer episodes, I would just start with those. Like, you know, go to, 100. Start with 100, maybe.
I think that's a good place to start. And also, I think, it's interesting for us to kind of revisit something that we already talked about, because I think that our appreciation and understanding of the show has grown over the past 6 years. And we get to view this through our current eyes, which are the same eyes that we had before, but have seen more things.
The quality of these eyes have gotten a little bit crappier now that we're older.
That's also true, yeah.
We were in our late 60s when we started this podcast, I think.
Yeah, now we're in our early 80s.
30s. We were a Benjamin Button this podcast.
Okay, yeah.
One thing that I will say, because we haven't really discussed it, the first podcast we did was 30 minutes long. I'm almost tempting to, after we're done with this podcast, to attach it at the end of the episode. So if you really wanted to listen to the first episode, it'll still be there. But also part of me wants to bury that.
Yeah, and just bury it like the E.T. cartridges from the Atari games. Just never mention it again. Yeah.
The only takeaway from that first episode that I can remember was we have this long-standing theory that in the future, Nelson Muntz, the bully, will become Marge and Prince's lover.
That's true.
Or vice versa. Yeah. So I want to keep that intact by saying that now. The very first episode, that's where that origin of our silly theory came from.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt we'll talk about it this week, or when we talk about Dial In for Nerder again. So I just want to get that out there that, yes, the lost first episode, which is not lost, we've scrubbed it from the internet. The only way that first episode will be heard again is if we put up a Patreon, and we'd have it for the Patreon listeners to listen to it if they really wanted.
We're working on that, as we do every week.
Right. That being said, I am excited to go into watching Dial In for Nerder, and I hope listeners, if this is your first time listening to this podcast, remember it will get better.
Mm-hmm.
So this first episode is pretty much on par with what we're doing in the year 2025. So if you want to go back and listen to just episodes, that's what I encourage people to, if they want to listen to this podcast. And the whole idea was don't go in order, because The Simpsons doesn't really flow with like a serialized TV show. It's episodic. It's a cartoon. So when you watch a Simpsons episode on Disney Plus or if it's on FXX and you're like, well, okay, maybe the Inouye Grandboys watched this episode, just some random episode from season 24.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, look, they did. And they did it, back in 2021 and listen to it. We do make a lot of topical references, which we try not to.
It'll happen.
We're not a political podcast, but we do say a lot of things. And I know that could probably get on people's nerves, and I understand that too. So don't worry, we don't talk ad nauseum about that. It's usually little quippy jokes at politicians' expense.
Exactly. But we're mostly here for The Simpsons.
And nudity. Mostly nudity.
We love nudity.
We will talk a lot about male genitalia, so if that's not your thing, then can we see your thing? What does that even mean, Steve?
I don't know.
Okay. Hey, we're just going to get onto this episode, Dial for Nerder. Steve?
Yes.
We like to get people in the mindset of the year that the episode aired, and this episode aired March 9th, 2008. So we like to look at the pop culture, like movies in the cinema and the music. So what was the number one movie in the box office for that week?
Well, Craig, it was a long time coming because the number one movie in the box office was 10,000 BC.
Now, do I have to watch 1 through 9,999 BC before I watch 10,000 BC? Or will I get the gist?
I feel like it is, but because it's BC, you have to start with 9,999 and work your way upwards.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's a movie about aliens, or not aliens, but cavemen.
They pretty much are aliens to us. I kind of remember seeing trailers for this, but it looked like, this looks like bad CGI, bad story. I don't know any of these actors, but somehow it made money.
Yeah, I feel like there was a time in this era where, like, cavemen they were trying to make cavemen a thing, because there was also Year One and Land of the Lost, which was not exactly cavemen, but it was like cavemen adjacent.
Year One, that's R.I.P. Of course. Didn't Harold Ramis direct that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Jack Black and Michael Cera, everyone's favorite duo.
Right. Had potential.
Yeah, I think I did see that one. It was not good. But 10,000 BC, we'll probably never watch this movie, Steve. So I hope you don't. Hope you're not mad.
I am mad, but about so many other things that I'll let this one slide.
All right. Well, since you and I probably weren't at the box office watching that movie, we definitely were listening to our Pandora in 2008, right?
That's right.
What was the number one song on the Billboard Hot 100, Steve? I go high, but you go
low by Flo Rida.
Hey, he's my favorite rapper name.
Definitely my favorite rapper named Flo.
He is progressive that way, Steve.
Yeah, he's better than my other favorite rapper, Georgia or Alabama.
I'm partial to Ill Noise.
That's actually a pretty good rapper name.
Well, we've done 312 episodes of this podcast, Steve. It's been a long journey from getting there to here. It's been a long road to come back and do this episode, Steve. Speaking of which, what was the number one hot rock and alternative song?
Why, Craig, that was Long Road to Ruin by Foo Fighters.
Yeah, I believe the song's about Dave Grohl cheating on his wife.
Ooh. If she got mad, she might threaten him with a weapon, which would probably lead us to the country song that was popular that week. What was that, Craig?
Sorry, I was too busy, cleaning this gun.
Cleaning that gun? What were you, snacking off again?
Yeah. Hey, come on in, boy. Sorry, I was just talking to the boy who wants to see my gun. Jesus, cleaning. What? See, what is this? Clean this gun. Come on in, boy.
That is literally the name of the song.
By Rodney Atkins.
Which I think we've referenced him before. How, like, if you were to ask, like, a computer to come up with the name of a country singer, Rodney Atkins would be the fake name that they would come up with.
When I hear the name Rodney Atkins, I'm like, oh, geez, my wife says I'm fat, so I'm just going to eat meat from now on.
I can't get no respect. Or carbs.
Well, Steve, you know how much you'd like a piece of this, right? Are you looking at me?
A piece of you?
Yeah.
Well, maybe just a little piece. Like, Kind of like if I'm eating broccoli, maybe just a spear.
You know, Mo thinks having 2 knives is cool, and so does this artist, Britney Spears, with Piece of Me. Because she loves dancing with knives. She has 2 knives.
That's true.
All right. Hey, those were not timely references we made because they're all dated references. Much like Dave Grohl dating many women.
That's right.
While he's married. All right, Steve, that's it. That's usually, listeners, we talk about songs. Why don't we play them? Well, there's a little thing called copyright infringement, and we get dinged if we play songs. So it's really weird. Even like we're on Spotify, but it's like, don't play our songs that are on Spotify. I'm like, well, we're playing your songs, but they still like take us down.
Yeah, it's weird.
You know, on the Patreon, if we ever do the Patreon, the songs will come back, so you get to hear a little snippet of a song. But look, if this is your first podcast you're listening to, because this is number 1, you're going to hear us doing intros a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
This is the current status of the intros. For the next couple 20 episodes, you're going to hear us talking about history facts for some reason.
Yeah, it's taken a long time.
Yeah, but yet the episodes are still shorter than newer episodes that we recorded.
And also, if this is the first time listening to any podcast ever, this is just what it is. This is what all podcasts are like. So consider if this is what you want.
Right, and while we don't have ads, just remember, if you need a boner, get some Blue Chew.
That's right. And if you're losing your hair, go to Hims.
And hey, for some reason, you don't know what Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are? Go buy them. They're delicious.
Yeah, everyone loves them, except for you. Change your life for the better.
Why does Reese's Peanut Butter Cups even need ads? We all know what you are.
The best.
Okay, let's just get on with this week's episode, Steve, which is a repeat of one we've already talked about, but 6 years ago to this date, and that, of course, is Dial N for Nerder. So when a cliffside prank goes wrong, Bart and Lisa are convinced they've killed Marge and Prince. Meanwhile, Marge wages war against Homer's Jelly Belly by hiring a nutritionist?
What?
That's right, Steve. So, we're going to take a little break, but not really a real break because we're just going to come back and talk about the episode. We need to take a break and put the season 19 DVD in the DVD slot.
That's
and
right.
Turn it on.
HDMI 1 or 2? I don't know.
Or 3?
Ooh.
Only rich people have 3 HDMI cables, Steve.
La-dee-da.
All right, Steve, we're going to take a break, come back, and discuss the episode. How about that?
Sounds great.
We'll be right back. And we're back. Today we're talking about Dial N for Nerder. It's the 14th episode of the 19th season. It's episode 414 in the show's run. Originally aired March 9th, 2008. The nerd code is KABF15. Written by Carolyn Omine and William Wright. Directed by Michael Anderson and the showrunner, Al Jean. It's safe to say, Steve, that I don't know if we gave that information off on our very first episode, but finally, everyone knows when it originally aired and the nerd code. But I think we did.
Yeah, if we didn't, though, I like to imagine that there's a listener out there who's like, oh man, I need to find out who wrote and directed Dial N for Nerder. Then I can stop listening to this dumb podcast.
Well, I think we did say something about Caroline Omine because we probably said Caroline Omine.
Right.
And we didn't say her name right for about 300 episodes.
But we got it figured out. You know, we've talked a lot about Carolyn Omine, and we've shared our love about her and like what she's done. So I actually want to talk about William Wright, because it's weird the fact that we're talking about this episode, because he wrote a total of 3 episodes with Carolyn Omine for The Simpsons, and only 3, and this was his first. And sadly, he passed away in December of 2024, and he was a longtime collaborator with Carolyn Omine. They came up together in improv at the Groundlings, and then later at the Acme Comedy Club, and they had a 2-person sketch show, and he's survived by his husband, Hector. And at the most, I don't think we talked about this, but the most recent episode of The Simpsons, Bottle episode, at the end, there's a tribute of Wright shown, featuring students sitting in the bleachers at Springfield Elementary, and they're all holding cards that depict his face, which is kind of referenced to in this episode, which we'll get to in a bit.
How did we not bring that up when we watched Bottle episode? Or did we not bring that up?
I don't think we did, and I don't know how we didn't notice it. I mean, it was at the end, but maybe we didn't sit through the credits.
So bad on us. So in like another 312 episodes, can we review Bottle episode again and bring that back up?
Sounds good, yeah.
So the other episodes besides this one, as you said, he wrote with 3 of them. Chief of Hearts, which was season 21, episode 18. That was our 266th episode, Steve. Sadly, I don't remember that one.
Homer attempts to bring a candy apple into a bank, but is mistaken for a bank robber and sentenced by Judge Constant Harm to do community service. And then he and Wiggum become friends, and then they have to deal with Fat Tony.
I think I kind of remember it.
Play the song At 17 by Janice Ian, if that helps, that one episode of The Simpsons.
Oh, okay. I remember now.
Okay, good.
And then the last one, he's credited with Carolyn is Blazed and Confused, which is season 26, episode 7, and we have yet to review that. So who knows? Maybe we'll review that in the future and not the past.
Probably not in the past, but maybe in the future, yes. Speaking of both the past and the future, let's move forward to the past of this episode. Do we have a couch gag?
We sure do, Steve. And it's 5 small bean-shaped objects sit on the couch. Then Professor Frink comes in and drops water on each of them, and they grow into life-size sponge versions of The Simpsons. Homer's body isn't fully formed, so Frink dumps a bucket of water on him, allowing him to grow his full size. I think instead of water, he should have opened a can of Duff and then poured it on him.
Ooh, I like that. That's a good ad.
Did I come up with that in our first episode?
I don't know. I feel like we probably talked about the Bart Sells a Soul episode.
That sounds about right.
With the funny smelling water and what Bart bought with Milhouse's soul money, the $5. I have no idea what we talked about then, because it was 6 years ago and I didn't want to go back and listen to it out of fear it'll be awful.
It's definitely awful.
Right. And so my biggest concern was repeating what we said or worrying about repeating it. So I'm trying to move forward without thinking about what I said, but I don't know. Maybe I did. I don't know. So if you're listening fans, or listeners, I shouldn't say fans, listeners, and it's something we already said, I apologize.
I don't apologize.
All right.
But let's begin the episode, Steve. And it begins as it always does with Homer and Marge about to have sex.
Ooh la la.
We probably said fucking originally because we thought we were the bad boys of podcasting.
Yeah. We're no Jason Bateman.
Yeah, we're not the smartless.
Yeah, we're the dumb fool.
Yeah, so like I said, Homer's going to take his hog and then put it in Marge's sty.
Ah, yes, yes.
So Marge tells her syrupy stack of man cakes to have at her, despite her seductive cat-like growl to Homer. She struggles to reach his wife. So he pulls at the sheets, then gives up, groaning, or is it graining, in exhaustion, complaining that it's just too much work. Steve, is that how you are?
No, not anymore. I feel like there's a time in my life where it was like that, sadly.
Steve's a skinny kid now.
I try to be more mindful of my health. I'm not the best, and I still pig out from time to time.
Oh, I'm the biggest fat ass now. I can't look at myself in the mirror and be I'm like Homer size now. It's not fun. I need to stop everything.
Well, I think that, we as a country and as a society have shifting views on what acceptable weight is. Because there's times in this episode where they talk about weight. They don't actually show numbers. I remember in earlier episodes, they would talk about Homer being so big at 239. And now I feel like everyone at some point is we've all kind of changed what 239 means to people. And that's not that big a deal anymore.
I mean, at my best, I probably should be at, with my height, I should be 150, but I'm 850.
That's a little alarming.
I'm not actually at 850, but I don't want to know.
You got to do what's right for your body too. And
yeah,
sometimes it's just a number. Anywho, Homer invites Marge to come at him, and she does, excitedly kissing him until he becomes tired and out of breath. So with annoyed concern, Marge asks if he's okay, and Homer replies that he just needs a minute and invites her to go wild on him. But he then passes out with his tongue hanging out of his mouth. Marge is left unfulfilled and ponderous. The following day, Homer arrives home and is met with a surprise.
Oh boy, dinner time. The perfect break between work and drunk. Wait, what's that smell? It's like a stalk of broccoli fell in a pot of boiling water.
It's your new diet.
But I have all those old diets I still haven't finished.
Your lack of bedroom pizzazz last night started me worrying. So I hired this nutritionist, Betsy Bidwell.
Homer, did you know I used to weigh 400 pounds?
I'll bet no man would touch you.
Well, I went from fat to all that using my simple foolproof diet. It's all about little substitutions. Instead of French toast for breakfast, why not eat a bell pepper? When you crave something sugary, eat a bell pepper. Want a beer? Bell pepper.
It's tangy like a pepper, but crunchy like a bell.
Bell pepper.
Love that quote of dinner. The perfect meal between work and drunk.
Really funny. Also, I like how Homer finds the bell pepper to be tangy like a pepper, but crunchy like a bell.
I remember the bell pepper bit, and I swear, like, we just talked about this.
I also remember us like referencing the bell pepper thing, and I thought that it was like a lot closer than the first episode.
Yeah, and not from this episode.
Yeah.
And I bet we did probably talk about bell peppers and if we liked them.
Yeah. And for a reminder, to me, they're the opposite of stoplights. Red, good to go. Yellow, orange, yeah, I'm okay. And then green, you gotta stop.
You don't use a green pepper?
I'm not saying I don't use it. It just has to be in the right context. Like on a supreme pizza, yes. But for most other things, I tend to like a red or yellow pepper instead.
Like raw or cooking?
Cooking, usually.
Right. I use all peppers, Steve. I believe all peppers matter.
Wow. You're so open-minded.
It's because I say have a pepper.
A pepper? Bell pepper.
Well, in the stands of the Isotope Stadium, Bart orders a hot dog from a vendor, and another vendor is offering bell peppers. And the vendor's just like, piping cool, crunchy, and bland. And Homer orders 3, catching one each hand and the third in his mouth. While others enjoy the sweet and salty snacks from a traditional vending machine, Homer hits up the bell pepper vending machine, offering green, red, and yellow. It's also weird, like, in this episode, like, that's the vegetable to eat.
Mm-hmm.
It's an odd one, because I probably did mention this, like, as a kid, I loved eating raw peppers.
Really, yeah. I do remember that.
I don't do it much anymore, but if you had to choose a vegetable to eat for a diet,
Ooh.
or you're forced to do that, like, what's the one vegetable you think you could keep eating, and that's the only thing you can have for like a week?
Is a potato a vegetable?
No, I don't think it is. It's not a vegetable.
Okay, see, like, if we're not talking about potatoes, because that would be my answer otherwise, but
you're going to eat it raw? Because I'm asking, you have to eat a vegetable like Homer is, like the pepper, raw. You can't cook it. You can't saute it. You're not even putting salt and pepper on it. You can't do anything. You can't dip it in hot sauce.
Just eating it raw.
Yes. So that might be easier, right?
Yeah, I think then I'd go for probably a carrot. Good old Lisa's husband.
Yeah. I know you like orange rods in your mouth, Steve.
As long as they're small and baby-shaped.
Oh, but I got a guy for you, Steve. I would say cucumber.
Yeah, that was a close second for me. That's nice and refreshing.
Also phallic.
That's also true. There aren't enough yonic vegetables.
Excuse me?
Yonic is it's like the vaginal version of phallic. It's good to know. Y-O-N-I-C. Yonic. But yeah, there aren't a lot of vagina-shaped vegetables.
It means God probably likes dicks. There's a lot of dick-shaped vegetables.
That's true, yeah.
God's a real dick.
That's also true. Speaking of dicks, over at Moe's, the barkeeper throws some bell peppers in a blender and uses a hollowed-out bell pepper as a cocktail shaker and pours the shaken cocktail into a martini glass, garnishing it with a slice of bell pepper. Now, I want to talk about bartender technique. I mean, first of all, he didn't do anything because he just put bell peppers in a blender. It's not actually a cocktail. It's just one ingredient. But also, after it's been in a blender, you don't need to put it in a shaker. I guess it's just for the joke. So Homer takes a sip, declaring the specialty beverage to be not quite there. And so Moe tells him to get out of the bar.
So Homer checks in with Betsy to see the progress of his weight loss journey, only to learn that he's gained 7 pounds. So Homer makes the excuse that muscle weighs more than fat, but as Betsy pulls out the calipers, she says that Homer is all fat. Marge accuses him of cheating on his diet, and Homer is offended. He won't dignify the accusation with eye contact, instead walking away. shirtless, while Betsy still clamps his belly fat. He walks out of the kitchen and around the front yard with his skin still clamped.
Marge rips her bedroom apart, muttering to herself as she searches for something. So Bart walks up to her and asks, "What you doing, Mom? Going crazy?" It's a great line. If you ever see your parents going nuts, that's a good thing to ask them. Marge explains that she's searching for proof that Homer is cheating on his diet. And then Homer enters the bedroom, asking if Marge is looking for something, saying that he too is in search of something, a bell pepper that he doesn't like. He then pulls out a pepper and takes a big bite, all while defiantly looking Marge in the eyes. With a sinister laugh, he declares that he loves that pepper too.
Later, Bart and Lisa sit on the couch watching TV and sharing sibling insults. So Marge walks in to see a clip of a show that may offer her evidence she's been looking for.
See that fat lady with the mustache? That's you. See that hippo rolling in dung? You're the dung.
Now that's enough. You each got one in.
Oh, but hers was better.
Meet Jennifer. She's worried her acupuncturist boyfriend is sticking it to someone else.
He used to be so loving. Now he says he's always working late. But when he comes home, his needles aren't even bloody. I've tried everything except talking to him. Help me, TV show.
We'll find out if Jennifer's boyfriend has been fooling around on sneakers.
If you suspect a loved one of cheating on you, call the Sneakers Hotline. Also call if you don't suspect. Most cheating happens when you think everything is just great.
Could this show help me with eating cheating? Out of the house, kids. I have to make an adult phone call.
Oh, man, not again.
Go.
Steve, how is your relationship with your wife right now?
I assume it's perfectly fine, but I guess that's cause for concern. I mean, to be fair, she's not home now, and I don't know. I mean, she makes candles all day, and her needles are also not bloody. But as we learned from one of the presidents of our lifetimes, Eden ain't cheating, so Homer's fine.
Jimmy Carter said that?
He did.
R.I.P. I like the sibling, just Bart and Lisa. Just there's something about them just insulting each other, like nonchalantly. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Lisa's on Bart's level,
Mm-hmm.
but like Bart, I don't know. It's quite endearing for me.
It is, and I like that Marge witnesses it. And she does put a stop to it like a parent should, but she's like, okay, you both got a good line in.
Right.
And she also appreciates the fact that they're good zingers. And they can all admit that Lisa's was better than Bart's. And so I think it's a lot of fun, yeah. I also just like Jennifer from the Sneakers TV show. Help me, TV show. It's very funny. I feel like when we talked about this 6 years ago, the show Cheaters was probably out of the zeitgeist, and now even more so. But for those of you who don't know, it was a syndicated reality type of show that would basically do what they're about to do, which is just kind of spy on people who they assume are cheating and then confront them in like hotels and in restaurants and in awkward places. And it was kind of at the height of like exploitative reality TV, like in the Girls Gone Wild days. And there were even like pay-per-view events, evidently, of cheaters where people were extra cheatery or something. I don't know, but just a weird show.
Did this ever end badly with like someone like killing themselves because of this?
I am fairly certain it did, yeah.
Yeah, not to date this episode, but there's those bikini baristas.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I saw like a guy that, again, I'm not defending this guy, but he pulled up to one of those bikini baristas like with his pants off and supposedly pounding off. And like the employee like filmed it and then blasted him on social media. But then I guess they found his car with him in it a couple days later. And like he killed himself because of it. Also had like a wife and kid too. It's like, look, yeah, what you do is deplorable. But I don't know, going and offing yourself. I guess, he'd probably be arrested, gone to jail anyways. So
yeah, that's just a bleak story.
I don't know how to feel about this because what he did was wrong, but also taking your life is wrong.
I really feel like the concept of a bikini barista, that in the first place is weird. Not just for like the exploitative nature of that, but I've been a barista off and on for a great deal of my life, and I would not want to be steaming hot milk in a bikini. It just seems dangerous. Like, I remember stories about how you shouldn't wear Chuck Taylor Converse, because there's this like urban legend about baristas where somebody had a pair of Converse that they were wearing as they were a barista, and they spilled milk, and the rubber toe cap melted to their foot. I've heard this from multiple coffee shops, and it's like, a story that goes around. So I can only imagine if you're wearing a 2-piece bikini, how bad that could be.
Yeah. Is it like, well, I was out all night at the strip clubs, gotta wake up this morning, but I still need to like see some titties while I go to work, get my coffee.
Yeah. And I don't know about other parts of the world, but here in Oregon, most of the bikini coffee stands that exist are like not in like prime good areas.
Right.
Yeah, I feel bad for the baristas, and it's a weird thing. So yeah, it's an ugly story and just weird.
We probably talked about this story 6 years ago too, didn't we?
I think we did. Yeah.
Steve, I think you should do your own thong baristas.
Maybe I will. So after being kicked out of the house, Bart and Lisa ride their bikes to the Springfield National Park, which is now smaller than ever. Bart is surprised to learn that the park is there, despite the fact, as Lisa points out, that he wrote a report on it the previous week. But Bart replies that the internet wrote the report and he just handed it in, and, at the time, he's probably referring to Wikipedia, but these days it's more like AI, so the Simpsons are still on top of their game after all these years.
Absolutely. I'm glad I not growing up in this time period. I think I would use AI. Like, I'd probably attempt to write a paper and then like, fuck it, it's due tomorrow. I'm just going to have AI write it. And I would get sloppy and like not go through it, correcting it.
Yeah. And like, your report on pine trees is great, but this weird, it's a weird political thing about robots having souls. Weird.
I feel bad for teachers now. I always do, but like all the shit they got to deal with.
I can only imagine. Yeah, it sounds awful.
And plus, they're probably going to have to learn to carry a gun in schools now, so.
It's the only way. That's no other way to solve that.
Right.
Except for more guns.
And one door and no windows. So after being kicked out of the house, Bart and Lisa ride their bikes. You already said that. Bart witnesses a falcon chomping on the head of an adorable squirrel. Aw, poor squirrel. And is impressed by the strong kicking the butt of the weak. So Lisa finds the act to be disgusting, smacking the bird and tells the two willing critters to play nice. I also feel like that's very un-Lisa. Like, I feel like Lisa obeys the law of nature, Like, she's like, yeah, that's the circle of life, food chains.
I don't want to be critical of vegans because I think what they're doing is fine. But that does make a point. Animals are going to eat other animals. It's just the way of nature. And I don't know if humans are, but like, there's an argument to be made, I think.
We should be eating that squirrel and bird.
Exactly, because we're at the top, so we can eat whatever we want.
It's like the great food pyramid picture from The Simpsons where it's the man and like all the animals pointing to the mouth of.
Exactly, yeah.
See, that's a good tattoo if you ever wanted a Simpsons tattoo.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
But only if you were vegan, because then it's funnier.
Exactly.
So after bringing peace and interrupting the law of nature, Bart and Lisa ride off, leaving the squirrel to climb up a tree to a nest to eat the eggs of the falcon.
Got its revenge.
I don't want to date this or politicize this episode, but look, eggs are expensive, so maybe just go find some falcon eggs in the forest and eat those.
There you go. Tasty and wild. It's great.
I'm just going to start eating snake eggs, I think.
Ooh, yeah. I hear they taste like chicken, so the eggs probably taste like eggs. In the living room of 742 Evergreen Terrace, Marge shows Zach, the Joey's Greco-like host of Snickers, a photo of Homer, drunk on a roller coaster wielding a can of Duff and a shotgun. Marge is concerned that Homer has been sneakering on his diet, and she was fine with him occasionally locking the bathroom door and snacking off. But now he's getting it on the regular, night after night, and it's far too much. Now, Craig, how often do you snack off?
Like with food or with my hand?
I mean, whatever works for you.
I think if I like snack off, I do it horribly because I eat too much.
Yeah.
But I'm a fat ass, but I don't eat a lot through the day. I eat a lot at once.
Yeah.
Giant dinners, and I eat it fast, and I can't metabolize it, so that's why I am the way I am.
Yeah, I'm pretty good about not snacking, but every now and then I do, like, go crazy, and I don't know when to stop, and that's the problem. It's like, more things sound good.
Like a couple weeks ago, we had some friends come over, and they left, like, 2 packages of Oreos, which is nice. They brought over some Oreos, and here I am eating these packages of Oreos, being a fat ass, so fuck those people that brought them over, right?
Well, they probably left them intentionally so they wouldn't be left them in their own house, because that would also be bad, because then a week later their wife presumably would buy some Oreo cakesters and we'd realize how gross and disappointing those were, and yet we still eat them all.
But the other day, I'm going through my Kroger app, and there was literally a free package, any size Oreo. So I'm like, I have too many Oreos at home, but it's free. I'm at the store, so I got the family size because it was free.
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you?
They're not open. They're not opened. I save them for like the big game. Maybe have a party for the big game. So
Oh, yes, the big game.
those people can come over and eat the Oreos then.
I know we talk a lot about Oreos on this podcast, but I recently made a discovery that I want to talk to you about.
Are you sure we didn't talk about this the first time around 6 years ago?
Maybe we might have, but I don't think so. So there's Oreos, great cookie, kind of perfect. Then there's a double stuff Oreos, and that's fine. More stuff for people. I'm more of a cookie guy, but that's good. And then people were like, we want more stuff. Then there's extra stuff. So there's Oreos with extra stuff, and that's also fine, more filling. But then people got health conscious, and then they decided to do Oreo Thins, which I'm a fan of. I think the ratio is a lot better. Kind of works. But now they have Oreo Thins with double stuff. And I feel like we're kind of like back to square one at this point.
So it's just essentially the same amount of filling in a regular Oreo, but the cookie's the thinner cookie.
I think so, yeah.
Well, I might have to get that.
At a certain point, they're just going to have to like have a sleeve of cookie, a sleeve of stuff, and you can build your own.
Build your own Oreo sounds great.
Yeah, actually, it's a great idea.
I remember I wanted to do like an Oreo party.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's sometimes in Oreos when you could open it up, you could actually pull the filling out without it getting stuck to the cookie part.
Mm-hmm.
So you, with like tweezers, you meticulously take all the filling out, lay them down with some tweezers, for sanitation wise, you don't want to use your fingers.
Right.
But like line them up in a row. Okay, there's the white stuffing, there's the chocolate stuffing, the peanut butter stuffing, the lemon, the mint, and then you have like a big like a tray of the cookies. Like it's like charcuterie of Oreos. Then you have like the chocolate cookie, you have the vanilla cookie, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna build my own Oreo bar. Like, I'm gonna put a little bit of the mint and a little bit of the chocolate stuffing, and put one cookie that's yellow and one that's brown. Why not?
Yeah, I think a golden peanut butter Oreo would be great.
But again, very time consuming to take all of the stuffing out.
That's also true. Yeah.
All right, that's it for this week's Oreo Talk. Tune in next week when we're going to be discussing Oreo cakes. Maybe Oreo ice cream?
Maybe, if we have time.
We'll save that for our anniversary episode.
Exactly.
Well, Marge begins to cry, and Zach puts his arm on her shoulder, saying, there. Marge apologizes for being so emotional, assuming that TV personality was offering comfort. He was actually offering stage direction, telling Marge to cheek towards the camera so her sadness can be captured on film. As she weeps, Zach watches excitedly. Meanwhile, back at the park, Bart and Lisa find Marge and Prince working on a weekend hobby.
Hey, Martin, what are you doing?
Excavating for arrowheads.
Dude, it's Saturday. What kind of a freak wastes this? May I join you?
Care to make it a trio, Bart? You can brush and I can blow.
Well, I agree, you blow.
Then it's a plan.
A lot of people blow, but no one blows like you.
High praise indeed.
When you look up blow in the dictionary, Marty's not gonna get it. Fine.
Martin does blow.
Very kid humor of Martin not understanding the double entendre.
And just the innocence, too, of him, like, thinking that a kid talking to him, it just wants to be his chum, so he's, like, praising him. So while Martin and Lisa work on their amateur archaeology, Bart bikes up the trail, and he stops when he finds Sideshow Mel, who has just painted a lovely river landscape that would make Bob Ross proud. And as the paint dries, Mel takes a brief nap on a log, with a slide whistle in his mouth, rising and falling with each breath. And looking at Mel's head, Bart is struck with inspiration, saying aloud, "The bone's the very thing, methinks, to prank my sister and the dink."
So Bart pulls Sideshow Mel's bone out, and then he goes to the bone in his hair and pulls that one out as well, causing his luxurious mane to drape around his shoulders. Bart then rushes to Martin, informing him of a major discovery. So they head off to a spot near a cliff where Bart shares what he supposedly found. And Martin is excited to find a bone, saying that it may belong to one of the major homos. Bart replies by attempting a now problematic joke, but Lisa stops him. I don't know. It's problematic, and I guarantee we talked about this because of this joke, but this is a joke a kid would say.
It is. Bart does say, like, oh, you're one of the major homos, but Lisa stops him. And the only reason that it's not in the clip is because of, like, the way that it sits in the episode. It's not surrounded by other things, so it'd just be a very short clip. That's the only reason why I did consider it. But yeah, it is a very kid joke, especially growing up when we did, and probably, like, the generation before us, like when William and Caroline were coming of age.
Look, everything, like we were kids, everything was gay.
Yeah.
We said it. Well, I'll admit it here, Steve. We would say that,
It's true.
I don't think we meant it that way. But we're also adults. We don't say that anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a phrase I've been hearing a lot lately. People calling things gay again. Like, I think the younger generation is starting to use that again.
I think so. I think my favorite is when a gay person sees me doing something like, that's so gay. Like,
they're allowed to do it, Steve.
Yeah, I know. It's just funny that they're calling me out. I'm like, okay, yeah, probably.
What are you doing that's so gay, Steve?
I don't know. Just having sex with men.
And why are they watching?
That's what I pay him for.
All right.
Martin begins to brush the dirt off the bone, which we see is tied to a string, which is hung over a branch and being held by Bart, who's hiding in the bushes. So Bart pulls the string, which lifts the bone, surprising Martin and causing him to fall backwards over the railing and down the cliff. So Bart and Lisa look over the ledge to see Martin lying on a ridge, unconscious. Lisa grabs a big stick and sends it down to Martin, telling him to grab onto the stick, but Martin doesn't wake up, and Lisa's prodding with the stick causes Martin to fall even further, hitting the sides of the mountain repeatedly as he collapses. A fun bit of trivia: before this episode aired in Spain, a network reported that Martin Prince would die in this episode, and so the fans of the series in Spain used social networks, probably mostly Facebook at the time, to deliver the news before the episode was broadcast. And so, like, they were all very depressed that their good old friend Martin was dying, and this would be, like, a very important episode of The Simpsons until, well, maybe he does die at the end. We don't know. We're not done with it yet, but yeah.
Even though we have watched this episode.
Yeah.
Admittedly, yeah.
And we watched several hundred episodes after this one where we've seen Martin Prince.
Spain's an interesting country because it's the only place where the rain stays mainly in the plains. Did you know that?
That's true, yeah.
All right. There's my trivia.
I like it. I want to talk about, actually, another interesting place called Nantucket. I met a guy from there once.
What did he do?
I don't know.
Did he have something that was enormous?
Yeah, and he didn't leave his house often.
Well, Bart and Lisa look over the cliff, stunned at what they witnessed. Bart makes a break for it, but Lisa calls out to him, saying that he just can't run away from this predicament. Bart agrees, saying that he can bike away from the problem much faster, and then uses his little bell to drown his thoughts. Like when you were a kid and you thought you murdered someone, is that how you coped with it?
It was, yeah. All those times that I thought I murdered somebody, I'd just either ring my bike bell or clang some pots and pans, anything to drown out the noise of killing people.
Do you ever have, I know this is probably the most annoying question to ask because it's about dreams. Do you ever have dreams where you think you might have killed someone?
I think I have, yeah. And I tend to wake up from my dreams feeling guilty about something, and I hate it.
I don't know, but there's some of those dreams that are so vivid where something major happens, like a death or whatever, and you're like, fuck, this is real. I can't get out of this.
Mm-hmm.
This is real life. This is real life, and it's really happening. I didn't mean to do this. And then you wake up like, oh, thank God.
It does make me wonder about your subconscious, though, Craig, and who do you want to kill?
It's always you, baby. It's always you.
It's nice that you're thinking of me. I appreciate it.
The worst dreams, of course, are the ones where you stumble across a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wake up and you're like, no, motherfucker.
I wish I had money. I need that money.
Look, Steve, I have 3 kids and no money.
I have no money and no kids.
I don't actually, I was making a Simpsons reference. I only have 1 kid, but still no money.
So Bart arrives home, still ringing his bike's bell, with Lisa close behind him, concerned that Martin is seriously injured or worse. Bart knows the action that needs to be taken, so he turns on the TV, where the happy little elves are singing about being happy and safe at home. So Bart breathes a sigh of relief, but that calm is short-lived, as the pleasant kids show is interrupted by Kent Brockman.
We interrupt Captain Kitty's Comfort Carnival to report on a grisly incident involving a small child who was apparently plunged off a guardrail here at Springfield National Park.
According to this pocket protector, the victim's name is Martin Prince. Sadly, his pocket was protected, but nothing else. And we know exactly who is to blame. No one. The boy clearly fell by accident. He crashed through the tree canopy there and was presumably eaten by this cougar, who is still coughing up parts of the boy's clothes. Tragic. Just tragic. You think this would fit little Ralphie?
Chief, that's evidence.
I know, but after it's evidence, it's a shirt again, isn't it?
So, Chief, what's your final word on the Prince boy?
Oh, dead. Definitely dead.
Chief, aren't we supposed to, notify the family first?
What do you think I'm doing right now?
Happy, safe at home. Oh my God.
We're murderers.
Hey, I was trying to help him. At worst, I'm an accomplice. I'm an accomplice!
I love the transition from telling the TV audience that Martin Prince is dead, and then the theme song from the TV show goes back. It's great. Also, like, the idea of they're watching the kids' program to interrupt to, like, telling the viewers about a dead kid.
Yeah. I also like the fake out from Wiggum being like, I know exactly who the culprit is. Nobody.
And, like, the shirt would fit Ralphie. Yeah, like, what are they going to do with it, right?
Yeah, it's evidence, and evidence becomes a shirt again.
Yeah, that's what I always say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, worried that she may, in fact, be an accomplice, Lisa imagines herself as an adult, locked in a prison, left to lift weights and look over a framed front page of the Springfield Shopper, which shows the headline, Bart killed Martin, followed by the much large subheadline, written in bold caps, Lisa helped. So a fellow inmate walks by. Lisa's still offering books from her bookmobile, and a brief glimpse of hope. Lisa requests a text from poet Joyce Carol Oates, half of the famous band Hall & Oates, right?
Exactly. He wrote all the songs, but Hall sang them.
But the woman pushing the reading card says she only has Daniel Steele, causing Lisa to scream in terror. Is Daniel still alive, or is she one of those, like, authors where, like, her name's on the book, but it's always written by, like, other people?
I assume that she probably hasn't written a lot of other books. But she's still writing, and she's had 6 husbands and 9 children, including 7 biological. Yeah, her name is Danielle Fernandez Dominique Island Steele. Wow.
Why didn't her and Stephen King never get married?
Oh, man, that would have been great.
I don't think Tabitha would like that. That's his wife's, Steve, Tabitha.
Tabitha King? Or is it Tabitha Queen?
Well, you know his son's name is Joe, right? Joe King.
You're funny.
I'm not making that up. It's true, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Who's also like an author who looks just like Stephen King is bad.
That's the cruelest joke of them all. Watch out for minivans, Joe. Jesus.
That's a reference no one will get under the age of 40.
Probably not. But I do like the fact that, aside from the sub-headline that Lisa helped is on the paper, that she hung up the newspaper of the thing that got her in prison.
Who was the reporter for, like, that headline of, like, Bart killed Bart and Lisa helped? Not creative at all. It's almost like Ralph wrote that.
Maybe he did. Maybe he went on to be a journalist.
Oh, and then you ever notice that he wears glasses as a journalist? Just some mild-mannered reporter named Ralph.
Oh.
See if he's Superman. Yeah.
I've never seen Superman and Ralph Wiggum in the same room.
Nor have I. Yeah.
Nor have I seen him react to kryptonite in any way, so it's very possible.
Look, that seems like it should be an episode.
I think it will be coming season 38.
All right.
So back in reality, Bart states that he's been in plenty of trouble before, but not like this. After he notices that he's going to turn himself in, Lisa grows nervous, her eyes shifty as she pulls at her pearls. But her mood changes in an instant, and she tries to negotiate with Bart. As she puts it, Martin may be gone, but it was all an accident, and ruining their own lives won't bring him back. But Bart is shocked to learn that his usually honest sister wouldn't want to tell the truth. But Lisa responds that the situation that they find themselves in is worse than a million A-minuses.
So Marge asks the kids how their outside time was, and Lisa claims that they were never outside, and that they were in the house all day. Marge is suspicious, knowing that the quick talking that Lisa is exhibiting is never a good sign. Lisa responds that while that it is usually the case, this time it isn't. And Marge thinks to herself that the kids are behaving oddly. But before she can discuss things with them, she finds another family member acting oddly, and I bet it's not Maggie.
Well, maybe. She finds Homer wearing a fedora and a trench coat, claiming to be headed to work. When Marge points out that it's 4 p.m. on a Saturday, Homer says that he has to count the atoms at the nuclear plant in the name of conservation of mass. As Homer leaves, Marge picks up the phone, dials, and tells the person on the other line that the load is on the road.
Like, we all know he's cheating on his diet, but like, what if he actually was cheating and like sleeping with another woman and splitting the other woman? Like, yeah, he calls himself the load. Like, not because he's fat, but because he's got a lot of cum.
Yeah, and the person that he's cheating on has a yellow stripe down their middle.
Well, Homer drives off unaware that the black van is following him close behind. So inside the van, Zach tells his cameraman and slash driver that the episode is going to be great, reading him the respect of his father, the Reverend Billy Graham Jr. That's very good.
Meanwhile, at Springfield Elementary, a large black banner is hung, marking the Martin Prince Memorial and offering the advice to tell the kindergartners that he's on a long vacation. Inside, Dewey Largo leads the band as they play Bill Conti's Gonna Fly Now, made famous by the film Rocky. Students in the bleachers hold up cards that form the image of the tombstone that says R.I.P. The kids flip over the cards to show Martin's face with the eyes X'd out. Much like the eyes weren't X'd out, but that was kind of what was shown for William Wright in the Buttle episode. The staff and students send their condolences, starting with Principal Skinner.
Martin Prince was known by many names. Martin Priss, Martin Princess, Fartin Prince, Martin the Brown-Nosed Reindeer.
That was mine.
Martin was a shy, awkward child who will never fulfill his promise to become a weird, unloved adult. The Audiovisual Club has prepared a video tribute to their fallen associate.
Just the idea of Skinner talking about all the names that kids call them, like breathe them up. It's not appropriate, Skinner, but of course it's a comedy and it's funny. Steve, it's funny.
Ha ha! I say
Fartin Prince. Yeah. I also like before the clip was played when we're going into the auditorium and the band is playing Gonna Flying Out. I love when they have like really crappy kids playing music.
Yeah, it's always funny to me.
I always wonder how they do that. Do they like? Is it they have the actual professional musicians, but like you have to play this crappy, or do they have like a 6th grade band do it and they record it? Like I'm just recording for. I'm not going to tell you.
That's a good question because I feel like it would be hard for a good musician to play something badly. Like it's hard to like train your brain to do something you're good at badly. It'd be like us doing a podcast goodly,
or pounding off with our left hand.
Yeah, what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to snack off.
Your wife's not home, so...
Yeah. She's using her left hand on somebody else.
The AV Club there consisting of database, ham, cosine, report card, and email. Are those actually all the names, Steve? All right. I know about a database and cosine. I'm not familiar with report card and email and ham.
I believe it was Bart's Comet. That is where we learned all their names. And database is the only one who really showed up. Those are their names, and I think Lisa is among their group, and I don't remember what her name was, but I think it might have been Homework.
Okay. Well, yeah, so they're all sporting those black armbands as they push a projector on a cart to the center of the auditorium, and database inserts a DVD. Steve, do we have to describe DVDs?
They're like streaming, but on a round thing.
And Sarah McLaughlin's Bittersweet I Will Remember You plays. Beloved memories of Martin are shown, featuring clips from previous episodes, such as Girls Just Want to Have Sums, Bye Bye Nerdy, Treehouse of 4-3, Fat Man and a Little Boy, and 3 Men in a Comic Book. As an episode I always want to watch, I always forget to watch 3 Men in a Comic Book. It's one of those early episodes I always enjoyed.
Yeah, it's a classic episode that I also kind of always forget about, but yeah, it's really solid. So as footage of Martin reading on a bench is shown, Jimbo uses his shadow to make it appear that Martin is picking his nose. And Mrs. Krabappel tells him to stop, just as the video shows Martin actually picking his nose. But in the bleachers, Bart remarks that usually when he does something bad, he feels good. He then tearfully adds that Martin was like Jesus, only real. Lisa whispers for Bart to keep quiet, as people are starting to notice.
While Bart says that he's filled with rue, one such person noticing is Nelson Muntz. Something seems to be bothering him. He thinks to himself that Martin was afraid of heights, so why is he on a cliff? He says to himself that it don't add up, And Dolph hears and mocks Nelson for trying to add things up. And Jimbo calls Nelson a wuss, and the boys begin to punch him. But their blows go unnoticed, as Mr. Muntz just sits there thinking, is Nelson like the toughest bully? Because they're just like punching him, and it's not even phasing.
See, it's funny because before we started this podcast adventure, I would have thought that he would have been the third tier bully. Because I always thought as Jimbo, Dolph, and Kearney as like older and therefore in my mind tougher. But in this instance, and kind of the fact that Nelson is kind of a loner too, like he doesn't need the support of the other bullies as much. Maybe he is stronger.
Right.
Also, we know that Jimbo comes from an affluent family, and Martin has had to come up with a bit more struggle, like making him more emotionally strong. So, yeah, I think that maybe he is the strongest of the bullies.
I'll allow it, but watch yourself, counselor.
All right. Homer walks down the street, trying to avoid suspicion as he enters the Indian buffet, Taj Mahal You Can Eat. Outside of the restaurant, Zach speaks into his walkie-talkie, reporting that the pig is in the sty. Getting the communique, the cameraman sighs to himself, remembering that he used to make documentaries about coal miners, migrant workers, things that mattered. Zach responds that they're both whores, and tells the camera operator to get to work. So as Homer is unknowingly being filmed, he fills his plate, and then uses a heating sterno to melt the food into a giant paste, which he swallows in one big gulp.
Groundskeeper Willie carries the contents of Martin's locker to a nearby dumpster, recited, "Into your hands, I commit this crap." So once the Scotsman is gone, Bart takes the box of Martin's belongings out of the trash container. So over at Springfield National Park, Nelson is holding a magnifying glass to the ground. Probably looking for clues. This was close to where Martin met his alleged demise. And saying that he's done ant burning all day. He's just burning ants with the magnifying glass, and now he's ready to begin his actual investigation, discovering that the bone with a string tied around it.
Meanwhile, Homer sneaks into the living room carrying a briefcase. While humming, Homer unzips the case to reveal one side full of tortilla chips and the other side full of salsa. He unzips the plastic cover over the pico de gallo and then declares them to be chips and salsa as he begins to gorge, shoving a handful of chips into the dip.
So the front door opens, and Homer quickly slams his snack briefcase shut. Seeing that it's Bart and Lisa, Homer swallows and asks them, "What's up?" And Lisa defensively asks why something would be up. And Bart chimes in saying that nothing's up and nothing's down, except for Martin, who died. And then Lisa smacks Bart in the back of the head and calling him an idiot. Also feeling guilty, Homer shares that he certainly wasn't eating chips and salsa from a briefcase. And Marge walks in, also wondering what's up, and Bart and Lisa and Homer all say nothing. Maggie, who is sitting in the family's desktop computer, minimizes her online poker tab to show Alma teaching shapes. That's a fun joke.
Mm-hmm. And she had a pair of aces, too, so...
Oh, man. She would have won.
I find the chip eating to be disgusting, and I don't know why.
Watch yourself, Steve. You probably talked about that in the first time we did this episode.
I don't find the act of eating chips and dip, or chips and salsa to be inherently disgusting, I want to say. Just the way that Homer is doing about it with a handful of chips and the dip. It's weird.
Anyway. Can I tell you one of my hacks? It's either disgusting or brilliant. I don't think I've ever shared it on this podcast. I might have, but like you get towards like the end of like the jar of salsa, and there's still salsa in there, but you can't you can spoon it out and put it in another bowl, or you can't barely get chips in it, right?
Right.
But then you're also out of chips. You have the little crumbs, right? So what you do is you take your bag of crumbs of chip crumbs and your salsa jar, you put the chips in the salsa jar, and you take a spoon and swirl it around, and you eat it with a spoon. So you eat chips and salsa with a spoon with the chip parts. Yeah. That's what I do.
That doesn't sound disgusting, honestly.
It's my favorite snack. That if I'm going to snack off, Steve, I'm going to do it that way. Yeah. I could live off, is salsa a vegetable? I could live on a salsa.
I mean, salsa is pretty delicious. Yeah. I like it. It's a good move. And it's relatively healthy too, because it's just tomatoes and cilantro and peppers and whatnot.
Onions, garlic. Yeah. Lime juice, whatever. If you're making pico de gallo, of course. The only thing I think I'm doing bad is if you had salt.
Right.
But add MSG instead. That's what I would do.
Mm-hmm. MSG is delicious.
MSG is fine now. I bought a bottle. Oh my God. I'm using it in everything now. It's amazing.
I have a bottle on my counter too. It is delicious and it is amazing. And it's mostly racism that people think that it's bad. So yeah, go for some MSG. This episode brought to you by MSG. That evening, Marge looks over at her empty bed only to see an indent of Homer's body. Lisa, meanwhile, lies in her bed, wide awake, racked with guilt and worry. And Bart sits at his desk, looking through the memories of Martin, such as a signed photo that says, "Please be my friend, Bart." He then pulls Le Journal de Martin Prince, that's the Journal of Martin Prince for you non-French speakers out there, and sees Martin's exhaustive notes about the life cycle of a butterfly. Bart seems inspired.
And over at the Sleepy Z Motel, Homer enters a room, seemingly with a person with a long blonde hair and a pink trench coat and floppy pink hat. So once in the room of the seedy lodging facility, Homer pulls off the jacket of his company to reveal that it's actually Selma Bouvier. No, it's a lamb meat on like those vertical splits that you see. So as the celebrate dance plays, Homer goes down on the shawarma meat, dancing around whilst embracing and chewing on the rotisserie. And then from a hidden camera, the Sneakers crew watches stunned and disgusted. I'm sure we talked about this scene, how like weird it was, but when that music's that background music, it just makes it funny.
I think we were initially like really disgusted by this whole scene and confused. But yeah, it is a funny, weird scene, and I like it this time around.
It's directed really well, animated really well, because if you actually had it look like Homer was with another person in like a passionate lovemaking, which you never see passionate lovemaking in an animated show.
Mm-hmm.
It was well done. It made it look like a sleazy, sexy movie, right?
Yeah, like you could see that on Showtime.
Ooh. Or HBO, like After Dark. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cinemax, where they'll show boobs and butts, but no vaginas or wieners, Steve.
I feel like wieners are growing, like in popularity, like in movies.
I can see your wiener growing right now.
Just talking about it. No, but like I feel like, and like my wife actually pointed this out to me, like she's like, if I have to see one more penis on a film, and I apologize and took my dick off the videotape. But no, like I feel like male nudity is on the rise, like in Saltburn and other films, like other A24 films. You're just seeing a lot more hogs.
And it used to be for like jokes.
Yeah.
Like, male nudity was always funny, like Forgetting Sarah Marshall, right?
Right, exactly. And now I feel like it's played straight or a little off to the side, but still. I don't know what I feel about it, but yeah.
Jason Segel, famously in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, doing the nude scene. But now he's on a show called Shrinking.
Uh-oh.
Did you hear the anecdote? Like the first thing when Harrison Ford met him, the first thing Harrison Ford said was like, "Yeah, I saw your penis." Reference, of course, Sarah Marshall.
Yeah.
Imagine that's the first thing Harrison Ford says to you.
I would be scared of anything that Harrison Ford said to me, but that would be, pretty bad.
Hey, Steve, I seen your penis.
I saw Indiana Jones. It was good. Anyway, Homer wraps his lip around the meat and then strips naked, chewing and kissing the lamb, even taking it to the shower. Witnessing the nearly erotic level of binge eating, Zach tells his crew to turn the camera off, which is a first for him.
On the other side of Springfield, Lisa enters the Quickie Mart, attempting to avoid observation by wearing dark sunglasses when she literally runs into Lou the cop.
Hey, you little murderer.
What?
Those shades are killing me. They're so cute.
Act like you're shopping. We can't be seen together.
But we're brother and sister.
Exactly. Give me an Indian burn. But don't make me say Indian again.
Afternoon. Doing a little shopping, huh? Shopping at the Quickie Mart. I like how quick is spelled with a K. It's a quicker way of spelling quick. Well, you're busy people. I'll let you get on with your day. Oh, there is one other thing. I was up in Springfield National Park. You know, where Martin bit the big one. Found this bone tied to a string. Almost like someone was playing a prank on him. You like pranks, don't you, Dingus?
I like pranks. Everyone likes pranks. Even Dr. Hibbert.
I hate pranks.
Well, I better get going. The missus is cooking meatloaf tonight. My mom, Mrs. Muntz.
Lou just calling her a little murderer. It's funny, but like, I'm going to start saying that to kids. Like, oh, look at that little murderer.
You're killing me. I like it. It's cute.
And then I'm sure we discussed it the first time, but Nelson being the Columbo in this episode.
That's probably one of my favorite aspects of this episode. And yeah, the performance is really good. It's very funny. Also, as I'm sure we talked about it, Lisa asking for the Indian bird and then regretting to say Indian. Of course, it's not a term that we use now, and I probably wouldn't use it then. That's why she showed remorse. But I looked it up, and other terms This one's no better. They call it a Chinese burn, which is just as bad. Also a snake bite, a skin pinch, or an enchilada.
I think the snake bite. I like that.
Yeah, skin pinch makes sense. Burn prank is a little clunky. But yeah, I like snake bite the best.
Well, I like, my favorite was, as kids, was, hey, Steve, do you want a Hertz donut?
I love donuts.
And then I pull your pants down and then laugh.
That hurts emotionally, don't it?
Hey, so that evening, Lisa sneaks into Bart's room, suggests that they go to the morgue and steal one of the Martin's hands, and then put its fingerprints all over the railing. She stops her devious idea to wonder why Bart is being so quiet. She first thinks that he is judging her, but then discovers that Bart is gone. In his place is a note that reads, "I can't live with the guilt. I'm going to Martin's house to end it all."
So Lisa gasps, imagining what her brother's letter could mean. And a few windows down, Homer makes a phone call, hopeful that the other end of the line will pick it up. We then cut to the bedroom of the meat spit, whose phone goes to voicemail. And next to a framed picture of Homer, the cordless phone plays a message of Homer saying that, well, their recent evening together was great, it can never happen again. But he then changes his mind, saying that he needs to see the meat right away. And I'm just impressed that the meat can afford rent.
Well, Homer's paying for it, Steve.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Lisa frantically rides her bike through the moonlit night of Springfield. Arriving at the Prince residence in the backyard, she sees the silhouette of Bart in a terrarium, standing on a chair, seemingly throwing a knotted rope over a bar, and she runs in telling Bart not to do whatever the heck he's doing, Steve.
But the rope wasn't a noose, but rather a hanging light. Bart was just tending to Martin's butterfly enclosure as the butterflies are about to emerge from their chrysalises that evening. But Lisa's confused, and Bart said he wanted to end it all. But he then clarifies that he meant to bring Martin's butterfly project to completion. And so Lisa begins to lose her grip on sanity when a miraculous event takes place.
I can't take it anymore. The stress is killing me. I'm on a freight train to Crazy Town.
Calm down.
You calm down. What was that?
The butterflies are hatching.
Aren't they beautiful?
Greetings, my friends.
Ah!
This beguiling lute solo will ease your metamorphoses.
Oh, it's a tape. Martin must have set it to go off when the chrysalis is hatched.
Now, if I may mimic your mother's feeding call.
Clow-de-clow, click-a-de-clow, clow-de-clow.
Thank you.
I thought I turned that tape off.
Maybe you just put it on auto reverse.
Congratulations on purchasing the Sanyo DL30, the finest non-reversing tape player.
See, I kind of remember this, and we definitely talked about the tape deck, the tape player reversible. It's very funny. And like Martin's like, clickety-clickety, like do the sounds of the mother butterfly.
Really funny, and yeah, and for those interested, Sanyo DL30 isn't a thing, but they did make some good tape players back in the day, including the Sanyo M12080 and the 1790F.
Tapes really aren't going to have like a cool comeback like LPs did, right? Vinyl.
I know that a lot of people have tried to make tapes a thing because vinyl is kind of rare and hard to produce. And cassettes are less so, and they do have the reliability. But I think that we're due for a CD renaissance.
Like a compact disc CD or like a CD, like renaissance?
A CD renaissance, where bankers just get really dirty with their loans on whatever CD is.
There was two types of people with their CD collection. There was the people that had the CDs still in the jewel case, or were you someone who like got rid of the jewel cases and put everything in a book?
I was a book person, but I wish I wasn't. Because like now that physical media isn't really as commonplace, I miss the act of opening up a CD, like getting that plastic film off and opening it up and like flipping through the book and the smell of that paper. I miss that so much, and I wish that I still like did that. But yeah, I was at the time like annoyed by all of the extra parts to a CD, so I would just put them all in a book. But what about you?
I had everything, was like all my CDs were meticulous, like in an order.
Mm-hmm.
But what I always did, I know this is going to be weird, every time I got a CD, I would burn it to a disc, to a blank disc, and then put that in my car and have that. I would never use the actual CD in like my car or listen to it. Like I keep it at home and maybe listen to it at home, but like most of the times all the CDs were burned in my car because I didn't want to have like the actual physical CD in there. Because there was a time when I was in high school when I had like a bunch of CDs in the car and then my car got broken into and all my CDs were gone. So it's just like, right. I remember literally writing a list like what was in there. Well, the best of the Eagles, volume 1 and 2, best of Steve Miller Band, like all those like CDs that you got for a penny from Columbia House, like all those.
I mean, your move is a little anal retentive, but it also kind of makes a lot of sense. Like, that's actually a really smart thing to do.
I still have in my desk drawer here do you remember like when you got the CDs, like the plastic that was on top of it was sometimes annoying to get off?
Yeah.
There's a little tool I got from Tower Records.
Is it yellow?
Yeah, and it would slide and cut the sticker, and so it'd be easier to open the CD.
I remember having exactly that thing, yeah.
We used to, like, when we were in high school, like a lot of times after Steve got, like, a paycheck, we would drive to Tower Records, and Steve would spend, like, his entire paycheck at Tower Records.
Literally hundreds of dollars. Back when, like, CDs were, like, $15 a piece. I do remember that, and, yeah, I sometimes I wish I could go back and just, like, slap myself in the face and be like, give me that money.
Yeah, like, it's cool, but, like, in literally, like, a couple years, you could just, like, listen to all of this music, illegally download it first, and then wait, like, another 10 years, and then just subscribe to Spotify.
That's true. But back then, I mean, minimum wage was only $7.25, so it's not like I was making that much money.
Steve, I think that's still the federal minimum wage.
It was, and I was making more than that at the time, too, so...
30 years ago.
Yeah, it's not a political podcast.
So I still have a CD collection. I have like all the I never got rid of my Ramones CDs and my Beck CDs. So those still, and my Pixies. So those are like the only CDs I still have for collection reasons because they're like my favorite bands at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And but I remember like taking in my entire CD collection and VHSs and DVDs, and this was probably like 20 years ago, taking them to like a secondhand music store or media store because they sold VHSs and DVDs, and like I got everything sold for like $300, and that was amazing at the time. So
yeah, that sounds good. Like I do remember at one time selling a great number of my CDs that I had and making several dozens of dollars.
I think I did it at the right time because VHS was still. I got like a quarter for every VHS tape.
This is not bad, not bad at all.
But VHS I think has kind of like a resurgence. So of like
people are appreciating them.
Yeah, I know, like getting like an old CRTV and a VCR, and it's like, this is how you're supposed to watch like Star Wars.
It does feel right.
Yeah. All right. See, we should continue with The Simpsons here. I'm pretty sure we didn't talk about the Star Wars the first time around.
Probably not.
Maybe. So at Puddin' on the Ritz, which offers an astounding 300 new flavors daily, Homer dons his pudding bib. You at a pudding place? Like, that just doesn't sound fun. Ready to dive into a giant bowl known as the Butterscotch Stallion before you can enjoy the Bill Cosby approved snack. At this time, 6 years ago, Bill Cosby was still fine, right?
No.
Okay, good. I mean, we didn't know about his nefarious. I think we did.
Yeah, because it kind of came out like around the time 30 Rock was on the air.
Okay. Well, before he could eat that pudding, Marge emerges, calling Homer out by his full name. And Homer shouts, "Pudding power, activate!" and tries to use the pudding skin as a cover to hide. Pudding. I just don't like pudding, Steve.
I mean, when it has the skin, it's gross, but I think I enjoy pudding. Making an icebox cake with like Oreo cookies and pudding. It's really good.
Stop talking about Oreo cookies, Steve.
Sorry. So Zach pulls the pudding skin off of Homer, inviting Marge to give Homer everything that's coming to him. Homer pleads to his wife, saying that he never wanted to deceive her. He just couldn't bear the disappointment in Marge's beautiful eyes. And Marge raises her hand, not to give a Roman salute, but rather offer a slap. Zach encourages Marge with a near horny urge to slap, but is stunned to learn that he is the recipient of the slap, not Homer.
That's it, Marge. Slap him good. Ooh.
Zach, you're not trying to help our marriage. You're trying to split us up. Well, I'd rather have a chubby hubby than a sexy exy.
Oh, Marge, if there was a reality show called Fat Guys Who Really Love Their Wives, not only would it be an enormous rating success, but I'd be the first one on it.
Aww.
Marge, you've given me a lot to think about today. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to the editing room to make you look insane. to the post-production trailer!
Isn't Fat Guys Who Love Their Wife like every Kevin James show?
Yeah, and like most sitcoms for a long period of the late 2000s. But yeah, Kevin James really like cornered the market on that.
Oh shit, I just realized something, Steve. With my weight right now, I could probably get a job on a sitcom as fat guy with a hot wife. Like that, I could be an actor. I think that's what I should do.
That's your break into Hollywood. I like it.
All right, Steve, who are you going to cast as my wife?
Leah Remini.
I'm not allowed to talk to her after she left my religion, so...
Okay. So in a terrarium now filled with butterflies, Lisa wonders where that extra lute music is coming from. She searches all over, accidentally knocking over a jar of butterfly nectar that was sitting precariously on the corner of a high shelf. So the jar spills all over Lisa, covering her in goo, which attracts all of the butterflies to fly onto her. She angrily yells, "Get off of me," waving her arms, causing all the butterflies to flutter away. All but one, who was standing on her foot. Lisa goes to flick it away, only to see that his foot is caught in her buttonhole.
It sounds so dirty, my buttonhole.
Buttonhole, yeah.
Seeing that she almost killed an innocent being, Lisa realizes that she and Bart have become monsters. While Bart may think turning into a monster is cool, Lisa knows that they have to do the right thing and come clean. She shouts her guilt to the heavens, and then the source of the mysterious loot is revealed.
Listen, world! We killed Martin Prince!
That's all I needed to hear. You almost got away with it, but here's where you got sloppy. Shouting out that you did it.
Oh, man, I'm too pretty to go to jail. You don't know how lucky you are.
I'm just glad it was you who brought us in, Nelson. Remember when we used to date? If you let me go, we can get back together. I never let you cherry bomb my Malibu Stacy. I'll let you do it now.
Save it for the warden.
Please, keep it down around the newborns.
Ah!
To quote Mark Twain, rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated.
Yeah, and rumors of your wussiness are 100% true. Now tell us how you survived the fall.
For years I've worn underwear with a wedgie accommodating waistband. On that fateful day, these mighty whiteys saved my life.
All right. From here on forth, Steve, we will no longer be known as the Annoyed Grunt Boys, but the Mighty Whiteys.
I think that your name might be already taken by certain factions of the U.S. government.
Maybe just the U.S. government.
Yeah, that's true. When Lisa said that she never let Nelson cherry bomb her Malibu Stacy.
That's a sex term. I'm going to cherry bomb your Malibu Stacy, Steve.
Oh boy. I'm going to cut the head off your Ken, too.
Who is Malibu Stacy's Ken?
I think they've referenced it, but I don't remember. I know she dated G.I. Joe.
Yeah, I love that scene. I was just thinking that episode with Malibu Stacy, the creator of it, Stacy LaBelle, like married to or had all the husbands like G.I. Joe and Steve Austin and Dr. Colossus. That's a good episode.
That is a good episode, and we can never talk about it.
I know, I'm sorry.
But what we can talk about is Martin's outfit, which is just basically his underwear band and some leaves. Kind of funny how he looks, and yeah.
I love this outfit, Steve. I'm going to wear it for you on your birthday.
Oh boy. And you can cherry bomb my Malibu Stacy. So Martin recalls this fall, bouncing from the cliff from tree to tree until his underpants were snagged by a branch, leaving him to dangle near the ground. He adds that, in French, he said, unfortunately, he landed right next to a cougar's lair, but rather than be seduced by a 45-year-old woman, he saw a big cat, which saw Martin as easy prey, and rather than facing death, Martin was saved by basic physics. The cougar tugged on Martin's clothes until he was flung into the air, wearing only his undies, and landing in the small isle of the middle of a murky lake. And after a day of crafting an emergency raft and 3 more days crafting a modesty skirt, Martin found safety. And so Martin twirls and giggles at his crafted fashion, and Nelson punches him before showing some muted affection as Bart and Lisa share the lessons that they learned.
Well, it's good to have you alive, Dorkburger. And as for you two, I hope you learned your lesson.
I learned that beneath my goody two-shoes lie some very dark socks.
And I learned that killing a nerd is not as fun as it sounds.
There is just one more thing. You folks have a good night now.
Hey, thanks, Nelson. You too. So as NBC Sunday mystery movie theme plays, an image of a figure holding a flashlight and a red horizon is shown, and retro credits are shown with Nelson as Columbo, Dr. Hibbert as Quincy, the rich Texan as McLeod, and Burns the Smithers as McMillan and wife. And that's how it ends. Steve, who's your favorite? Columbo, Quincy, McLeod, or McMillan and wife?
Ooh, it's tough. I do have an affection for Columbo. I like a scruffy, unattractive detective.
Who is married to Captain Janeway.
That's right.
You never saw Mrs. Columbo. She was always referenced, but you never saw her. But then they decided to make a Mrs. Columbo TV show that lasted like a season, and it was played by Kate Mulgrew, who went to be Captain Janeway in Star Trek Voyager. But like, she was like early 20s, and believing that, wait, you're married to Peter Falk? I don't see this happening.
And also, is he going to be faithful? Because I hear that he has a wandering eye.
Jesus. You know what? I think we're faithful, Steve.
I think so.
Because we're faithfully going to take a break and come back and wrap it up.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Let's wrap up this week's episode for the second and hopefully last time we talk about it. Dial in for Nerder Steve. Now, when we originally reviewed this episode, we didn't have all the fun shenanigans that we do now on this podcast. So we never had like our favorite quotes or MVJs or things like that, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we had anything.
And especially the one thing that we like to do is give a gift. And we definitely didn't have gifts in the beginning. We had tattoos. I don't know if did we. I think we did the tattoo.
Yeah.
Early on. So we probably were talking about tattoos. But we're not doing tattoos anymore, Steve, because we got so many tattoos from the other episodes. We just have no more room in our body.
I feel like a circus freak.
Or just an average Portland resident.
That's also true.
So we find something from this episode that could be a gift that our friendly co-host would love to own. So, Steve?
Yes?
Well, there's some obvious stuff from this episode, like here's a bell pepper. But that's kind of a shitty gift, right?
Right.
So, Steve, I'm not getting you a bell pepper. Because I'm also insinuating that, like, maybe you're overweight, which, you know, we don't have a problem with. Again, no fat shaming on this podcast unless it's me.
Of course.
And you're not fat because, like, you look like, I don't know, you have a disease. Because you've lost so much weight. I'm concerned, Steve. But I'm going to give you something that you've always wanted, Steve.
Oh, boy.
And that's a bone. I'm going to bone you.
Ugh.
That's right, it's Mel's bone. It's just been hanging around and no one picked it up. So you get Mel's bone. But wait, there's more. Steve, I know you've always wanted a torn shirt of Martin Prince, so I broke into the Springfield Police Department's evidence locker and stole Martin's shredded up shirt from the evidence. So Ralphie can't have it, but you can have it.
Wow.
But wait.
Oh.
There's always more, Steve. I feel like I should give you 312 presents from this episode. So maybe I will. Number 3 gift is... Sorry, I decided to fast forward through all the gifts because it was long. So we're just going to get to the 312th gift, okay?
Okay.
And that is a butterfly sanctuary building so you can hatch your own butterflies.
Wow, that's great.
So enjoy all the 312 gifts that I got you from this episode.
It's very sweet, and I kind of feel like a real asshole because I only got you 3 gifts.
That's fine. Can I fast forward? Well, we better rewind it because fans probably want to know the gift, so rewind.
Yep. I know you're a fan of these things, so I got you a squirrel, but not just any squirrel. A squirrel that eats the eggs of offending falcons. I know you're not a fan of cassettes, so I got you the Sanyo MCD-Z57F CD player. It's a boombox with dual cassettes and auto reverse, as well as a CD player and a remote control for all of your boombox remote control needs. And not to be outdone, I did not get to Barton's shirt, but I did go into Nelson's closet and find Martin's underpants, so you can enjoy those with however you see fit, those tidy whities, or mighty whities, if you will.
Steve, we are the mighty whities.
That's right. Ugh.
I appreciate your gifts and cherish them with all the giffiness that I want.
Thank you.
What made you laugh in this episode?
Well, I really enjoyed Jennifer from the Sneakers show, her talking about her anesthesiologist husband whose needles weren't even bloody. Marge talking about sneakering and snacking off. But really, the thing that made me laugh the most is probably Nelson in this episode as Columbo, from hearing Bart and Lisa talking in the stands and knowing that Martin is afraid of heights somehow, reasons that we've implied many, many times on this podcast, to his interview at the Quickie Mart with Bart and Lisa, and just kind of his colloquial Columbo way of interviewing them and talking about how he enjoys the way that the Quickie Mart is spelled with a K, and that he has to go home for dinner with Mrs. Muntz, who is his mom, who's making meatloaf for him. All very sweet, and all very funny. My MVJ is probably going to be Nelson Muntz, but a good performance from Marge, and I enjoy Homer making out with the meat as well. What are your thoughts, Craig?
The Nelson stuff as Columbo, I think, is my favorite. I mean, I do enjoy the Martin tribute at the school. It's a fun scene. And you talked about Lisa's vision of the future in jail. It was always good. The news report is also... I think the news report might be my favorite scene just because the idea of they're watching a children's show and it's interrupted with Kent Brockman talking about a horrific story of a dead child.
That is pretty funny.
So I'm going to go with that as the scenes that I've liked. So yeah, I think for me, Nelson is my MVJ for this episode. Anyways, let's just get to it, Steve. What did you think of this episode?
Well, Craig, I don't remember what I thought about it when we watched this episode last, but this time around, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought that it was a light, goofy episode. I think that I'm more partial to the Bart, Lisa, Nelson plotline rather than the cheating plotline, although that was fun. I am kind of astounded by how brief the bell pepper thing was, because remember it being such a bigger deal than it is, because it's really only like one scene. And I think that even though the whole Cheaters TV show aspect of it is incredibly dated, even like looking at it now, I still think that's fun and it works for a nice B story. But I really want to focus on the dynamic between Bart and Lisa, as you mentioned, because I do think it's interesting how Bart is basically playing the good guy and Lisa is more concerned about getting caught, which is a fun dynamic shift. And I think it works in this episode. I also enjoy the fact that they're very kid-like in this episode. I like that they insult each other in a fun way, and I like that Bart makes all these jokes to Martin that go over Martin's head that Lisa just kind of tells him to stop. I think it's a very organic and natural thing, and I just like that Nelson shows interest in the case for no apparent reason other than his obvious love for Martin, but that's all implied. But yeah, I think that overall, it's just a fun episode. I like the kid dynamic, the funeral scene, Skinner reading off the names, Martin Princess, and Martin Prince. Very funny. I like the fact that they throw in clips from other Martin episodes and even reference Lisa and Nelson's former relationship. So all in all, nice, good amount of fan service without being cloying, a lot of good jokes, and just a lot of fun. So if I had to give this a score, and I suppose I do, the first time we reviewed this episode, the episode clocked in at a very smooth 32 minutes and 44 seconds, which is the time that I could not imagine that we could do now in any stretch of the imagination. So out of 32:44, I'm going to give this episode 26:57. What are your thoughts, Craig?
Yeah, so it was fun to go back and watch this episode that, again, we haven't seen in 6 years, and remembering some of the things differently. I do remember the bell pepper stuff, but I always thought that from a different episode. All I remember was the Nelson and Columbo thing. That was when I was watching, I knew this is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bart and Lisa dynamic is a lot of fun. It's the A story. I feel like the weakest part is the Homer and Marge storyline, because it feels like it should be from a different episode and that should be the A story. Again, it's one of those we had last week. The Marge Homer episodes are kind of my least favorite ones, where they think the relationship's on the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a little weird that the whole scene with the lamb meat, the shawarma, it was kind of weird, but I think I appreciated it more. But I think this time around, yeah, I think I want to say I probably like this more because of the Lisa and Bart dynamic, and after the 311 other episodes we've watched, this was a more panicky, nervous Lisa, and some of the jokes, calling out, like, of course, when Martin's like, this is one of the major homos, and Bart's like, you're one of the major, and Lisa's cutting him off. Sounds problematic, but I think it's a really good joke because that's what kids would say, especially Bart. And then even Lisa saying, give me an Indian burn, and she regrets using that term, Indian burn. So they're very on point with, I think, problematic natures of jokes that kids make. And kids don't know better, but we should, Steve, because we become better people by knowing what's wrong.
That's right.
Or inappropriate. So, that being said, I agree. I think this is a good episode. And it was fun rewatching it. Maybe in the future we'll do this to another episode that we review, like the first couple 20. Who knows? We'll see if fans react to this at all. But I say it's a watch. And if I gave this a ranking, we can't go without mentioning Full House every time a Carolyn Omine episode's on, because she did write a couple episodes for Full House. Her first one was Smash Club, The Next Generation, which was from season 7 all the way back in 1993. So I had to look up what was the Nelson ratings for Full House in 93. So Full House for the year of 1993, it averaged about 14.4 million viewers in 93, which made it the 16th most watched program for that year. And do you want to know where The Simpsons was in 93, Steve?
I do.
Well, Steve, sadly, The Simpsons was all the way to the 42nd most watched program of 93.
Wow.
With an average view of 11.7 million viewers. But it is the first show for Fox. It's the number one show for Fox.
Huh.
Do you want to know what the number one TV show of 1993 was?
I do.
Steve, I'll give you 1 hour to guess what the number one show was. In 1993. Now you have 59 minutes, Steve.
I would guess, but that damn clock keeps on ticking.
You know what really grinds my gears about Steve trying to figure out what the number one show is?
If only I could call my lifeline Morley Safer.
Morley Safer has the biggest happiness that I've ever seen.
I always think 60 Minutes always came out on top, but for non-news programs, the number 2 was a sitcom featuring a man who still is making hit sitcoms, and people are watching them. That's right, Tim Allen with Home Improvement was the second most watched thing in 93 with 20.6 million viewers.
Wow.
And now he's on his new TV show. I think it's not getting good reviews, but people are watching it. So
yeah, what is it called? Pile of Crap?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Simpsons, not as popular as Full House, but it was ABC's 8th most watched program. So at least The Simpsons was the number 1 for Fox.
That's good.
Anyway, so Caroline, good job. You were 14.4. So out of 14.4 million, I'll give this episode what The Simpsons was. And that, of course, was 11.7 million.
Nice.
All right, Steve, we did it. We discussed our very first episode. And now when people are starting our podcast, they can hear audio quality a little bit better, but the content remains the same. But should we get into our Wheel of Random to watch what we're watching next week?
All right. Looks like we're going to have to bust out that Wheel of Random.
Weep, weep, weep,
What?
weep,
What?
weep. Steve, don't you know what that sound is?
It sounds familiar, but I don't know what it is.
It's the Craig Audible button.
Oh boy, everybody get out your audiobooks. It's the Craig audio button.
No, not like that, Steve. I think, fuck you, Wheel of Random. We don't need you anymore. Maybe not today. We're still keeping you, Will, but I thought because of William Wright, you talked about that he's written with Caroline 3 episodes, and sadly he left us in December of 2024. So I thought, you know what? Let's finish up this William Wright the right way and review the episode that we haven't reviewed, and that's Blazed and Confused. Now, Steve, we didn't describe Blazed and Confused on this, did we? I don't think we did.
No, I don't think so.
We talked about the other one that he wrote with Caroline, of course, that we did review, which was Chief of Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
So, Steve, what do you think Blazed and Confused is about?
Well, Craig, I think that Marge becomes a volunteer firefighter And while saving somebody in a blast of flames, a log falls on her head and she gets amnesia, and she doesn't remember who Homer is. And in a B story, Bart gets into weed and just really loves it and gets high all the time.
I don't know if it's too soon for you to be talking about fires.
Oh, probably in bad taste, yeah.
Probably in bad taste. And me making that joke is also in bad taste. But, Steve, that sounds familiar. I don't know if it's an episode, but I swear there was an episode where Marge does forget who Homer is.
Let me look it up. Yes. There is an episode called Regarding Margie, in which Marge hits her head on a stool while doing housework and loses consciousness. And she regains her memories, but she can't remember Homer, so Patty and Selma trying to help her find a new man to replace him.
But meanwhile, Patty develops feelings for Homer, and she doesn't want Marge to remember, so she can have Homer all to herself.
That's right.
No, I'm just making that part up, Steve. Well, we're not watching that episode, Steve.
Oh.
You were close, but no cigarette.
Hmm.
Because Patty and Selma smoke cigarettes, Steve.
It's true.
Blazing Confused is actually a different story. The synopsis here on the Simpsons Wikipedia says, in the continuing saga of Springfield Elementary placing Mrs. Krabappel as Bart's 4th grade teacher to coincide with the death of Mrs. Krabappel's voice actress, Marsha Wallace, Superintendent Chalmers picks Mr. Layson, a soft-spoken psychotic man from Shelbyville, who has it in for Bart.
Ooh.
Meanwhile, the Simpsons end up vacationing at a desert festival called Blazing Guy. It's like Burning Man, Steve. And Mr. Layson decides to get rid of Bart once and for all. Die, Bart, die. I don't know why I'm saying it like that, but help. Hey, look, Kelsey Grammer, Sideshow Bob is this episode, along with Willem Dafoe as Jack Layson.
Whoa.
Willem Dafoe. Steve, are you a big Dafoe head?
I know Dafoe has a big head, but I do like him a lot. He's a fun guy. I always enjoy his work, whether he's playing Daddy Goblin, Green Goblin, or guy from Poor Things. I always enjoy his work.
I'm very excited to talk about William Dafoe's Hog next week.
I'm sure it'll come up.
Like, definitely comes up for him. But in the meantime, Steve, I need you to relax and breathe in, breathe out. Be happy that you got through Dial In for Nerder. And you can finally go to sleep knowing that the rewatch was worth it. And we got to do a lot better episode than the first time around.
Indeed.
I mean, I hope you did.
Yeah.
We did. I don't know. But that's up to the fans, because let us know. You can do that by going to social medias like Instagram, Threads, YouTube at 13simpsons, or the easiest way is to just email us. Just drop us a line at 13simpsons@gmail.com.
And hey, while you listen, you can go to your favorite podcatching app, leave us 5 stars or the equivalent, and write a review, but it doesn't need to be an actual real review. You can just tell us the vegetable that you would eat if you could only eat one vegetable on a weight loss journey.
And check out our TeePublic site, tpublic.com/user/NoiGruntBoys for some TeePublic merch. Well, not merch from TeePublic, but merch from our podcast. It would be weird, like, wear a TeePublic shirt. I think I've made that joke before. Anyways, do that, and we'll be happy you did.
Indeed.
All right, for this week, I've been Annoyed Grunt Boy Craig.
And I've been Annoyed Grunt Boy Steve.
And remember, no one blows like you.
Help me, TV show.
I never let you cherry bomb my Malibu Stacy.